And I am not saying this even as a critique of people that are pro-choice. I actually think they moved away from pro-choice. They went like pro-death. It was very bizarre. It wasn't like...
I'm sorry. I don't believe this story. I don't believe you, Piers.
The issue, for example, of trans athletes in women's sport, which most people...
Why does he keep saying that? Piers brings this up every show for the past 4 weeks. She has not promoted trans women in sports. You know what I'm saying? Drop a like, leave a comment, let me know you're in here. We finna have fun tonight. What damn, y'all? It's Logic's back with another one. After all the election nonsense and uproar has came and gone, Donald Trump is going to be our next 47th president. Beat Kamala Harris with the popular vote and the Electoral College winning all the swing states. What we can learn and take away from this election as to why Kamala lost, more or less the Democrats. I don't think Kamala lost this election. I think the Democrats lost this election. And I think the main reasons is because I think now we can understand that Joe Biden should have dropped out of this race way back when. He should have announced he was going to be a one-term, well, he did say he was going to be a one-term president to transition for a new face of the Democratic Party. And he decided to run again. He probably liked that power and wanted to keep it and thought the incumbency would carry him all the way through. But his age caught up to him and he couldn't run, and it was too late to deal with the storm, and we had to figure something out. And Kamala ended up running. I think she ran a great campaign for what she could within the 100 days she had. I do feel bad for her because I think 95% of this was not her fault. So she did what she could in that short amount of time. I think her campaign was great. Of course, not perfect. I think this comes down to the DNC should not have ran Joe Biden again. He should have gotten out way before, and we should have known so we can get ready to get a better candidate up there. People don't actually care about policy. They care about how they feel. And I will argue that to the death because every economist has said Kamala's plan is better. She catered her campaign to the middle class who is suffering the most. And she wasn't the one, or her party was the one to kill the border bill that made immigration an exacerbated issue. And people just go off of how they feel. The economy's weight really was hurting people, so they wanted change. People are reactionary in a lot of situations. They said, well, the blue guys did this, they're in office, they're in charge right now, and I don't like how I feel, so let's go with the red guy. I think this was going to be tough even if Donald Trump wasn't the candidate, and I think this was going to be tough even if Kamala wasn't. But I think we had more. If these were two different candidates, I think that between another Republican candidate and between another Democrat candidate, I think that we could have had a much tighter race. They wouldn't have been able to blame all of the economy on these specific people, and we wouldn't have to worry about a lunatic running the country for the next 4 years. But nonetheless, we're gonna go to one of my favorite channels to react to, Piers Morgan. He had Candace Owens on and Mark Lamont Hill, one extremely intelligent black man that I don't always agree with. But I think all of his takes come from a place that's genuine, which is what I appreciate from Mark Lamont Hill. I don't think he's lying about how he feels. And then you got Candace Owens, who is the opposite of everything I just said. So let's get into it and see what they talking about with Piers Morgan.
Donald Trump's stunning comeback has upended some long-held assumptions about US politics. His landslide-winning coalition includes many supposed voting groups that Democrats have long taken for granted. In fact, one of the biggest lessons they will need to learn is that demography is not destiny. Black voters aren't a monolith, and neither, for that matter, are men and women. Trump made huge inroads.
It's funny for Piers to say black people are not a monolith, yet all he keeps harping on is, why did black people vote for Trump? Why did so many black people? Why did black people? Because we're not a monolith. How the fuck is one of your narratives? If he's so racist, why did so many Latino and black men vote for him? Yet you're sitting here saying that we're not a monolith. That's why that people voted for him. I agree, we're not a monolith. So saying that is fucking defeating your own narrative.
Black voters, and in the end, the first black female candidate for president fared worse than Joe Biden. The number of women voting actually increased.
They both fared worse than they last run. Trump lost like 3 million votes. And the reason that more people voted in the 2020 elections because people was getting mail ballots and they wasn't even asking for them. So it was easy for them to vote. And COVID fucked Donald Trump. Nobody wanted to deal with him because of COVID. They was like, oh, hell no. get him out of there. People was energized. Kamala didn't manage to energize enough people.
Of the electorate, but a potential first female president got just 53% of their votes, the worst result for a Democrat in 2 decades. And despite the prophecy that a comedian's bad joke about Puerto Rico would cost Trump the White House, Trump ended up with 46% of Latino votes and won with Latino men by a whopping 12 points. Perhaps a new dividing line in US politics is not black or white, nor right or left, but right or wrong. To debate that, I'm joined by host of the Candace Owens Show, Candace Owens, and the host of Bet News, Professor and author Mark Lamont Hill. Well, Candace, let me start with you. It was a stunning set of results. But one of the more stunning things to me is that after years of being assured by the left that Trump's the worst racist to ever run for president, you saw so many black and particularly Latino voters racing to vote for him.
Ain't that funny? He just said that black people aren't a monolith, yet he's talking about how people ran to him. And it ain't even about race, because I do agree that the left should... First of all, I don't even think racism was their forefront insult or way to talk down on Trump. It was more so of the fascism stuff that they was harping on. But they weren't always calling him racist. He's done racist things, though, but he didn't overtly do anything racist towards black people, I think, during this campaign, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he personally did anything racist toward black people. So people have a short memory span. They're forgetting that he's not the cause of why we had a better economy during his term, because he inherited it from Obama. So, you know, it is what it is.
Why?
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. That was a big part of my prediction, was that especially black men, you could see that they were turning away, especially after Barack Obama was really patronizing to come out. You left your Martha Vineyards estate and decided to roll up your sleeves and inauthentically tell the brothers how they have to behave. You know, I think it's one of these things where you just can't keep doing the exact same thing all the time and not expect people to wake up to your patterns. And it has been a very long pattern of them speaking to people in a manner in which they're essentially telling them that if you don't do this, it's because you're a racist. If you don't do this, it's because you're backwards. If you're black.
And I do think that the racism narrative needs to calm down. I've been saying that on this channel. Like, I'm not bullshitting. Like, calling everything racist is so annoying, and people are going to run away from it, and it's not always the case. Call racism when it's racist. Stop making everything that's, if there's a black and white person involved and the black person doesn't excel past them for whatever reason, it's racist. Like, let's not do that for everything. It's unappealing to a lot of people.
Person, it's your duty to behave like this. And fundamentally, that is racist, right? When you're not even actually saying anything based upon her policies or talking to people as if they're individuals.
Well, her policies do cater to black people because black people are more disenfranchised per capita amongst other racial groups. Like, we suffer more in numbers relative to the number of us there is. So there's gonna, and with that being said, as far as like economically, you know, where you are on the social class scale, more black people are lower than, per capita, lower than white people on an economic scale. Therefore, you're going to be affected by whatever Kamala is choosing to do for middle and lower class people. It'll help black people. That's why it's more of an interest to you. If you're a well-off black person, you're probably going to be a little bit more leaning towards Trump, which is ironic because middle class and lower class people still chose to vote for Trump. He didn't even say anything that would help them. So I don't understand it. That's why I said people truly did not. I don't know if it's always going to be a thing, but this time around, people weren't voting because of policy. 24 Nobel economists said Kamala's plan is better than than Trump's by any stretch. There's no comparison. Kamala's plan would help the economy. Trump's would hurt it. People are hearing that they're going to put tariffs on anything, and I don't know if all these Americans know that that's going to make stuff cost more for you. But
who are having their lives impacted by their bad policies, but rather saying it's incumbent upon you as a woman to vote for her because she's a woman. It's incumbent upon you as a man to vote for him because you're black. I
don't think they pushed that hard. Kamala never leaned into identity politics during her whole campaign, which is why I think she ran a good campaign, because everybody's expecting it. They thought she was going to play identity politics. They thought she was going to cater to wokeness. They keep bringing it up, and Kamala at no point in her campaign catered to wokeness. She catered to women, identity politics. She catered to women because of abortion rights, which is something that most Americans want, is people to have that option. So She catered to women, and I don't think that's identity politics. That's just literally something that affects women, so you should care.
Black, and she's going to be the first African president, which she
Yeah, nobody was talking about that in her campaign. Everybody else kept bringing up her race. Kamala never made her race or her sex a focal point of her entire campaign.
wasn't.
And I'm just sick of the fact that the right can just propagandize their side and everybody else to just be like, is she black? Oh, all these black people, like, she ain't really black. Kamala never even tried to fight for her identity. Never.
And so I think, and
She's not Logic. Logic does that shit. and I used to be a fan of Logic. I kind of fell off of him. He plays into his race so much, and it's annoying. She never did that, and they just put it on her for whatever reason under the sun.
I think I've been proven correct here.
And it worked.
The celebrity endorsements really hurt them this time around. It
I
felt very
disagree.
cheesy,
I don't think it
especially
hurt.
because she wasn't voted for, right?
Honestly, it probably helped.
She had 107 days. She didn't even campaign. They just kind of, it was a coronation more than anything else. It's a
What do you mean she
coronation.
didn't
We picked her for
campaign?
you,
She
and you
campaigned
will
her
do
ass
as we
off.
are instructing you to do, and vote for her because, look, we have LeBron James and we have Beyonce, and that's what you know to do, and Taylor Swift gives you a post. I think ultimately they insulted a lot of their voters.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Lamont Hill, I really feel that this time. You know, whether it was Jennifer Lopez lecturing Latinos that this is, you can't vote for this guy, or Barack Obama telling black voters you've got to vote for the black candidate, Oprah, George Clooney, out they come.
Did they out there? I don't even think most of them said like you got to vote for the black candidate. I don't agree with that. I don't even think that happened for real. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I don't remember hearing a bunch of them talking about you got to vote for the black candidate. I don't think that happened like the way Pierce is trying to make it sound. Not at all. They weren't. Obama did that one video that people were talking about with the young black boys, but overall, they weren't talking about vote for her because you're a woman, vote for her because you're black. People on social media do that shit, but not them in the campaign.
You know, as it did for Hillary Clinton, but it didn't work for her, and it didn't work for Kamala Harris. And I do feel like Candace just said, I felt it actively deterred people. I think it drove them to go and vote against what they saw as a kind of celebrity, multimillionaire elite. What do you think of that?
Well, you guys made a few points I'd like to respond to. First, I don't know if celebrity culture or in the wave of celebrities deterred people from voting. I'd rather
that's
rely
not
on
turning
the
people
data
away.
for that. And until I see the data on that, I don't want to make a determination. I think that voters in general want to be spoken to about policy issues. I think they want to be engaged about the things that matter in their lives.
You see what I'm saying? Yes, they want to, and I think they just feel like Trump is going to help because they were better, even though he inherited Obama's economy, and he didn't do anything to make their situation better. All he did was fuck them over when he mishandled COVID. So I don't know why everybody thinks Trump is a savior. They don't care about policy because every economist said Kamala's plan is better. She literally was saying, like, I want to extend the child tax credit. I want to make it easier and more affordable for you to buy houses. I don't want stores to be able to price gouge you. Literally, all of these things were helping people that are hurting financially, and they still voted against it. Trump literally is actively saying that he's going to do things that's going to make you pay more money for things that you already don't want to pay for. He basically said, you're going to end up paying more because I think it'll work. And everybody told him it wouldn't.
But Barack Obama also had a ton of celebrities, and it did work. You know, I think if people like you, celebrities are an added bonus. If they don't like you, if they don't want you, celebrities hurt. I don't think that's the issue here.
Yeah, exactly.
I think more fundamentally, the question of whether you should vote for somebody because you're black or because you're a woman or whatever is a little more complicated than has been suggested. I think that the message that I would give to somebody is never vote to support somebody because they're black, right? I would never vote for a candidate because they're black, but I will vote for a candidate because I'm black. In other words, I will vote for—
I said that in the last time we watched him. Like, that's a better argument. If they're catering to you because of your race, not because of theirs, that's what matters. Like, if you know if your race is affected differently for a certain policy, then yes, vote for them if it matters to you that much.
For a candidate that speaks to my interests. And I think it's okay to say to people, hey, there are some things that affect your community, and this candidate is better for you. The problem is we should not presume that because someone is the same race as you or the same gender as you, that they have your community's best interest at heart. Right. I do think in the case of Kamala Harris, though, an interesting thing happened, right? They were basically saying women's reproductive rights are on the table. If you specifically are pro-abortion, you should be voting for Kamala Harris because that's your only chance at saving what has already been a devastating loss. I think that is logical. If you support abortion, Donald Trump ain't the guy to vote for based on what he said and based on Kamala Harris has said.
Wasn't about—
I think, though, what we saw in America and what we always see in America is that white people in general, in terms of the majority, are not going to vote for a Democrat. No Democrat has gotten the majority of white voters since like LBJ. It's been
And that's the thing. Trump didn't like vitalize this new group of Trump supporters. He lost I believe it's 3 million votes. I think he had 71 last time. I mean, he had 74 last time, and he has 71 million this time. I think that's what happened. So I don't know where this thing of thinking like Trump is this super popular. He's never been popular. Granted, he was popular compared to Kamala, so we can't say that no more. But Trump didn't like gain any support this time around. I think the Democrats just did not get enough people energized to actually go out and vote. Trump didn't surpass his performance last time. He lost a lot of people. So now if Joe Biden ran again, well, I don't know what that would have looked like. That shit would have been scary.
And so ultimately, white people often don't vote their interests. Black people often don't vote their interests. And I think that's the problem. And that's what many of us get so frustrated.
But I had a fascinating conversation with an African-American woman, I guess.
I talked to one woman, and I'm going to base all of how most black people feel because I talked to one woman.
In her late 30s, maybe early 40s yesterday, and she voted Trump for the first time. And
yesterday, and he just started yesterday. You randomly talk to a random black woman in her mid-40s because she's going to be the perfect example to say why black people voted for Trump, and that's going to be stupid.
I said, why? And she said, it's interesting. So I grew up in a family where you just would automatically vote for a black presidential candidate, if there was one, Barack Obama, and now Kamala Harris. And she said that was how my family were. And she said, and I decided this time that I didn't care about the fact she was a woman or that she was black. I cared about what she was going to do for my personal finances, what she was going to do about the border.
Literally, I'm sorry, I don't believe this story. I don't believe you, Piers. A working class woman is not that worried about the fucking border. I believe she's worried about money, and if she was truly engaged and only cared about how she's gonna pay for things, Kamala said that. Trump only proposed things to make money worse for you. If you don't understand what a tariff is, I'm sorry. If you don't understand what it's like to only give tax cuts to the rich, I'm sorry. If you don't know what mass deportation could do to this country, I'm sorry. But you cannot be telling me that you care about policy and keeping your money or making more, and Trump was your guy. He could feign caring about the border all he wants because that is a very nuanced topic, and there's an argument to be made to the Democratic Party about the border. But that's honestly the only thing that's remotely excusable for a reason to vote for Trump. There's no other reason that's logically sound to vote for Trump versus Kamala if you look at their policy, if you look at their character, which are two things I think are extremely important. Your policy and who you are. I think that matters. And Kamala beats him in both of those in spades.
She was going to do about all these things, and she talked about a number of issues. And it was really interesting. She said, I voted, she said, I was almost colorblind when I voted. I didn't care that she looked like me. I cared about what she could do for me. And I wonder, given how many black voters gravitate.
And if that was the case and she truly cared, Kamala would have done more for you than Trump would. And if you just did it just because you're always used to vote. And I hate, like I said, he's making this about race. I do think that there's a lot of people out there that was pushing vote for Kamala because she's black, but those are people that are not heavily engaged in politics or government in general. I have friends that did shit like that, but they're not that engaged. They're just like, oh, it's a black woman. And I do think we need to stop doing that. It turns people off. It's not a good reason. We gotta stop. You can't care about racism in this country and then bring race into every single thing that appears between two people of different races. What if this was a black person, a Republican? What if Trump was black? Like, y'all can't do that. You can't. That's the problem. If Trump was black, you can't say vote for her. Then it'll be because she's a woman. Or if it was a Republican black woman, you can't be like, vote for her because she's a black woman. That's absolutely absurd. And I think that we're almost in a place where two women could end up running for president on each party. I don't believe most of the lack of enthusiasm for Kamala was because of her race or her sex. Hillary won the popular vote. Yes, she's white, but I don't think people are so against a black woman if they think she can win. I think Kamala would have been a better president than Trump. But a lot of people don't think that.
Gravitated to Trump this time.
But it's because they're frustrated with their situation economically, and they just wanted something different. I think that's most people just not engaged with politics and the government enough to understand what exactly has been going on and why they feel the economic strain at this point in time. So they just wanted something different. They didn't care what Trump said, because if you listened to it and cared, there's no way you would have voted for him.
And given particularly how many Latinos did, how many of them were having that same conversation with themselves, saying they may not even like him that much. She wasn't a particular fan of Trump's, but she just was put off by the kind of posturing of people to try and direct you to vote according to your ethnicity.
I don't think her campaign didn't do that.
It's fundamentally just not educated to vote for someone and say, well, this person looks like me, so that means that they have my best interests at heart. I just think it's the most uneducated thing you could possibly do. And it's especially rich when you have someone, because
right.
Mark, you just said, I maybe wouldn't vote for them because they're black, but I might vote for them because I'm black, right? And I might think that their interests align. I hope I'm paraphrasing that correctly, but the reality is even that fundamentally makes no sense. LeBron James, just because he is black, is not living the black experience of somebody who might.
He said your interest, and Obama wasn't talking to LeBron Jameses of the world. LeBron has daughters. He cares about their future. LeBron probably cares about the moral character of his president and don't even want to feed to it. I don't know what he said. I hope he didn't mention it because he's black, but I think his biggest thing was he has daughters and he wants them to have rights. And I think that's what he centered his care for. You can be so rich to where I know Destiny always talks about how I make so much money. Yes, I'm willing to pay more in taxes to help the people that are the reason I can make all the money I can make. You can be the rich person that cares about the people below you. So, and Candace, don't talk about a black experience. You don't know what that is either.
Be living on the south side of Chicago. It's actually insulting when LeBron James posts something, and you saw this in the comments, by the way, if you could use any metric. It was the fact that LeBron James had to start hiding comments because the overwhelming majority of them were negative when he made a post that was very propagandist. He was using things that Trump said and splicing it.
I don't think anybody, clips. And nobody from the right should ever be able to use the word propaganda. I'm sorry. Like, y'all lie like y'all breathe. It don't make no sense.
The civil rights movement, it made entirely no sense. It was offensive level of propaganda. You have a man who lives in a $100 million Bel Air mansion, okay?
So does Elon Musk. What the fuck are you talking about? Elon Musk is the richest person on earth, and he backed Trump. Why is Elon Musk's opinion more valid than LeBron's? I hope Mark brings that up.
Okay, so when he tells you about how he's worried about the future for his children, this man is so wealthy and so connected that he has a son who quite literally is not qualified in terms of his actual metrics to be playing for the Lakers. But because of
that's funny. Look, Mark damn, I actually agree with that. So I don't know. That's funny. That's fucked up because it's true. But that's not the point.
Good old fashioned nepotism.
Mark damn, I kind of care. I agree with that part.
Good advertisement, a father and a son playing, you know? And so when you see that taking place and this person pretending.
But just because LeBron is rich doesn't mean he does not care about the people that helped him be rich. That shows a strength in character, which is the difference between people like Kamala and Trump.
To be in the struggle. That's why I said Barack Obama exiting his mansion in Martha's Vineyard to come down and roll up his sleeves and speak to the brothers.
Barack Obama, again, I don't know what people be expecting because I don't think anybody could sit there and truthfully say that there's a president out there that was 100% perfect and did nothing wrong. Like, we got to stop acting like maybe you didn't like Obama, but he was a good president overall.
It does resonate as insulting. And so at the end of the day, people were moved by, okay, you know what? Despite what the media rhetoric is about Trump, how am I actually living right now? And I know they're going to say, well, these.
And that's not even the best way to think about that decision, which is part of the problem. People like, how am I feeling? This guy's in charge. Let me just do the opposite. It don't work like that because what you're feeling now is the after effects of COVID, and Biden actually made things better than every other country on this world. And we're going to see the effects of what Biden did during Trump's term. And then Trump's going to take the credit, even though I bet you in 3 years when we say, well, what did Trump do to help your life feel better? And whatever they name, if it's positive, is going to be because of Biden, or it's going to be because Trump did absolutely nothing and they're going to still attribute it to him, even though he did nothing but win. Whatever is going to be good down the line, 9 times out of 10 is going to be because of the fucking infrastructure bill and the CHIPS Act. Like, that shit is going to be because of Biden, not because of something Trump did. Trump is not doing anything to help us be better in the future. He hasn't proposed anything.
Statistics show, and they've released this. When I was living under Trump, The gas was low. I was able to
You
afford
living under Trump because he had Obama's economy. He didn't do anything. Trump didn't pass anything to help us economically.
gas. I was able to afford groceries. And everything the media told me the first time around about him being Adolf Hitler and telling me that he was going to put me back into slave chains didn't come true, right? It didn't come true. I already survived under Trump and I was living better. And so there was this common sense element. And I knew that that was going to happen. And it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, I don't
even
understand what common sense
say, I'm not going to respond to that sort of a rhetoric anymore. I'm not going to vote because I'm a woman or because I'm black, but I'm going to vote what actually makes sense.
Yeah, Mark, you're shaking your head a lot there. Why?
Well, to the first point, Candace, you may not have heard the second part of what I said. I said, I vote for someone because I'm black. I said, but I also added, I don't presume that because someone shares my color that they represent my interests. So I don't assume that the black person is the best person to represent the black community or that the woman is the best person to represent women's interests. I add that part as well. So we're actually not in disagreement there. I think it's really important to look at the agenda. I have voted in the past for old white men, old white ladies. I didn't vote for Barack Obama when he was on the ticket in 2008 as a Green Party member because I thought that the white woman who was running against him, or at that point actually a black woman, had a better chance of meeting my issues. I voted for Jill Stein instead of Hillary Clinton. There have been moments where I don't make that alignment, but I do think we have to vote based on our collective community interests. I think it's interesting, though, that to say someone like LeBron James can't speak for the conditions of a poor person or the everyday black experience of the person struggling in America, if we make that argument, because he's a near billionaire, if not a billionaire, then it would be really hard to make the argument that Trump has the ability to speak for the average Joe. It's sort of interesting that Trump's whole candidacy, his whole campaign has been based on saying, look, his whole candidacy is saying, his whole campaign has said, look, I know what is best to heal America. The people who are working in factories, when he goes down to places like Ohio or Pennsylvania, I've literally stood there, as he said, I can get you back working again. I know what you're going through, and I can fix the economy for you.
And it's so funny, he's about getting people back working, and unemployment is like an all-time low. And I don't know if y'all know, but unemployment should not be 0%. Like that's not ideal. You don't want unemployment at like 0%, but it's as low as it fucking should be comfortably, so people can move around for work and let people enter the workforce. Unemployment should not be 0%. So if it's at a great number, who are all these people he think is going to work all these factories if he tries to tariff everybody and make everything made in America so everybody's driving fucking Fords? Like, stop. This shit, these people have to stop thinking that, oh my God, if we cut off everybody and everything is going on in America and everything is in America, everybody could work. Y'all can't afford to pay these people, and it's not worth it at the end of the day to make everything in America, because you're not even going to find the bodies to do it, because what you're going to have to pay them is not going to make what they make affordable.
And hear me out.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that if you have $1 billion, you might be able to do that, although I hate billionaires. And if you have no money, you might be representing the interests of the rich. Again, we can't assume a one-to-one correlation between people's own identity and status and what they're representing, because when we do that, we make a lot of dangerous assumptions. So I'm not going to reject LeBron James because he's rich. I'm going to reject him if I were to, because I don't agree with his argument. Similar to Donald Trump, I happen to agree with.
I wish he brought up
LeBron
Elon
James,
Musk,
though, in this particular case, that Donald Trump did not.
That's the richest person in the world back at somebody, but yet y'all. Candace you turned off by LeBron James because he's weird, rich. Cardi B, Beyonce, why would you vote for her? Because they're rich. Elon Musk was regularly with Donald Trump, talking about him every day on social media. All these people did say is like, I think y'all should vote for this person because they probably gonna help you. Black and white people alike. I think you should vote for Kamala because I think she's better for the country. Elon Musk, the richest person in the world. Y'all trust him? RFK, a fucking quack of a nutritionist and environmental specialist, whatever the fuck he is. The man done got people killed because of vaccine misinformation. Like, that's who y'all trust? What's happening? Literally, it seems like the right and the left live on two different earths, and that's scary as fuck, bro.
The interests of the people. But while I don't think identity politics should govern our decision-making process, I also don't want us to be naive either as a nation. I don't want us to assume that nobody rejected Kamala Harris because of her womanness, or nobody rejected Kamala Harris because of her blackness. And the reason why I say that is because when we look at
I don't know if it's in large numbers though, Mark. Like, I feel like he's gonna make it seem like it's bigger than it is. I don't think it's gonna be the biggest factor into her loss. I think it plays a role, but I don't even know if it's 20%. I don't know if sexism and misogyny was 20% of her loss. I don't even know if it's 15. I think it played a role, but I don't think it's a major role. It's not a major role. Like I said, Hillary should have won. So
look at the surrogates for Trump and other people, or people who just don't like either of them, but still calling Kamala Harris a whore or a slut or the N-word. I mean, these are things that.
And I think if she was white, she wouldn't get the type of people be calling her a bitch for no reason. Kamala never even presented herself as like this, this lower tier class of a human being or woman, and it's ridiculous.
Absolutely suggests that misogyny and misogynoir play into it.
Mm-hmm. Candace, you want to respond?
Yeah, if I may respond. First and foremost, Trump has never tried to say I am a blue collar worker. So that.
Why did she just fucking distort what he said? That was a straw man. He didn't say he was a blue collar worker. Mark literally said Trump's campaign is I am what's best for you and I can help you in your situation. He didn't say he's a blue collar worker. He said his whole campaign is saying I know what you want and I can help you. That's what Mark said.
That's just completely wrong. He actually leans into the fact that he is.
Exactly.
Well, you correlated him to LeBron James, and you said, well, he does the exact same thing that LeBron James is doing. No, LeBron James pretends that he is living a struggle.
No, he doesn't.
Trump says, I'm rich, I run a company, and I can help you get rich. He literally makes jokes about the fact that he's rich when he's at these events, and he's tossing jokes about, I'm a billionaire, I've done this. Like,
Candace literally didn't hear anything he said. She just has her arguments ready, and she's arguing with the fucking ghost. Mark didn't say anything about what the fuck she's talking about right now.
The New York City stereotype billionaire who basically says, I run businesses and I'm going to run this country like a business and I'm going to lift you up and I understand how trade works because I've been running a business. So I just fully reject that he's somehow cosplaying a blue collar worker. Blue collar workers are responding to him because he speaks in a way that they believe that he's going to uplift them. That's great. I'm happy we agree on that point, but you did try to correlate him to LeBron James 5 seconds ago, and that's just not the truth. But to respond to your point, because this is really bothering me, people pretending that
Candace
those who have told the truth about the fact that Kamala Harris did sleep with Willie Brown and was not warranted to the position that she has, district attorney, pretending that this came up because she's running for president or because there's some element of misogyny.
I bet you Piers don't push back against this. While he claims he's so liberal, he needs to defend Kamala in this instance. She dated a man that was in the government when she was younger, 30 fucking years ago. She dated somebody that was in politics. So just because she dated somebody in the government, now all of a sudden she didn't earn anything, even though she got voted in every fucking position she had except for vice president as far as when it comes to government. As DA, as the AG, and as a senator, she got voted. And some of those, she got voted more than once. She did that. You can't make people vote for this woman. And if that's the case, whoever somebody slept with at some point or the moment that somebody gave them a job, honestly, if that's your barometer, you could just say that about anybody that's like, oh, this person gave him a job. Oh, they didn't earn it. Like, what are we talking about? Just because she has sex with somebody, he didn't give her any position. They put her where she is now.
Patently false. It was actually leftist newspapers at the time that she was running in Los Angeles. I pulled up these old articles in the San Francisco Chronicle who were scandalized. They felt that it was a scandal that she was being given so much power, that she was being put on boards that she did not deserve to be put on, and that she was being given those positions and making all of that money not based on her merit, but because she was having an affair with Willie Brown. Again, these were the leftist San Francisco articles.
So people feel that way, then that means it's true, Candace. Get the fuck out of here. This is how these people operate. I feel this way, so that's what it is, because I feel this way.
Bring it at this time. You can go back way back.
Same with the fucking economy now. Everybody like, I feel like I'm hurting. Everybody, I feel like immigration is the biggest issue in the world. I feel like crime is at an all-time high. And when all these things are fucking false, it doesn't matter because you feel a way. And that's not to say you don't feel that way, but the fact of the matter is things could be a lot worse. They have been worse. You're actually in a better position right now than you could be. Look at all the other G7 countries. They're doing worse than us as far as inflation and unemployment and whatnot. I have a job that's hiring people on a regular, rotating door in and out. Not because it's bad, because it's a hard job. But nonetheless, there's work for people. It's just a matter if they can or want to do it. It's work for people, and it's money, especially considering where you are in life, your class. Shit is expensive, but that's not Joe Biden's fault this shit is expensive.
Back machine it and read those articles yourself. So people point to the fact that she was essentially coronated because of who she was sleeping with in the past, and then now is essentially just being handed.
Even if you want to give her first job, whatever, is sleeping with somebody in the past, the woman got elected to positions well after that, and people probably didn't even know nothing about this. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Donald Trump's past is Donald Trump was born with money, and y'all think that's more acceptable than her working her way to be the vice president of the United States to then run for president of the United States. Give me a fucking break.
Another position, not because people voted for her. I think it's relevant to the discussion of whether or not she is qualified for that position. That's fine.
Insane.
And the last thing I'll say is that I found it to be really alarming and borderline satanic in the manner that they ran to women and said, well, this is the election that hinges upon abortion. And I am not saying this even as a critique of people that are pro-choice. I actually think they moved away from pro-choice. They went like pro-death. It was very bizarre. It wasn't
Shut the
like
fuck
the
up.
typical we are pro-choice and you are pro-life. They essentially were coming to women, and their only basis for saying to vote for her is, well, the only thing women could possibly care about is whether or not we have the authority to, murder our offspring. I don't think that actually resonated even on the left. They're not that.
Candace, you don't know anything about the left because you don't listen to anything that doesn't agree with you. So shut the fuck up and actually be critical of the things that you hear and see. And when you speak on them, think about it before you speak. Nobody was talking the murder. You're already losing people because people that are pro-choice do not think it's murder. So you're not catering to anybody. Well, these grifters only try to cater to their base, so it is what it is.
Radical on the topic of abortion to make your entire platform hinge upon it. And I think that's the reason why so many people who otherwise are okay.
It wasn't even the worst strategy in the world. I don't know what would have been better as far as the way she ran her campaign, because I think she ran it on policy and people don't care about that. I think her character is better than Trump's and people didn't care about that. I think people was just frustrated with the Democrats. With the Democratic Party. I think people was just frustrated and just want something different. That's really, really all this came down to.
With the pro-choice movement, we also saw in those exit polls women moved away totally from the Democratic platform. I think it was a big mistake to hinge an entire election upon the topic of abortion in the way that they did.
Yeah, and Mark, before you respond to that, what I would say about that, and I was discussing this on
let him respond, Piers.
A BBC interview last night, is it seemed to me there was a real inconsistency, if not hypocrisy. On the one hand, Kamala Harris wanted to make the whole thing about, I represent women's rights, vote for me and I'll protect women's rights, and using abortion as her reason for that and bringing back abortion rights and so on. And that's fine, except that at the same time, she has also been actively promoting the issue, for example, of trans athletes in women's sport, which most people.
Why does he keep saying that? Piers brings this up every fucking show for the past 4 weeks. She has not promoted trans women in sports. This is not an issue that regular people give a fuck about, nor is it that deep, because you're going to bring up, the UN report, over 900 medals were lost to trans women, to women. Bro, most of them are fucking not American countries that has happened to. Over 90% of those countries aren't in America. She don't control the rest of the country. We control the rest of the country, but we don't control the rest of the country. But we're not running around like, yes, trans women need to be in women's sports. That's something that can get talked to at a later date, bro. It's so much other shit that's far more important, and he keeps putting that shit on Kamala as if that was part of her platform.
Of women's rights. It's unfair, it's unequal. Last week the United Nations said 900 medals have been deprived from women athletes by trans athletes competing against them, which is obviously completely outrageous. And we saw the scenes in Paris where boxers with male chromosomes were literally beating up women in front of the world. I mean, the whole thing was grotesque. I don't know how the Democrats could consistently say to women, we are here for protecting women's rights.
And again, he's comparing women fucking dying for reasons they didn't have to versus competing in sports and losing to trans women, which ain't okay. I don't agree with it, but that is such. First of all, how many women are at the professional level in the first place to compete competitively in the Olympics or the WNBA or college level? How many of them is it? All right. Then you take that and put trans people in it, and not only just trans people that actually want to participate and are able to participate at the highest caliber level. 900 is not a small number. I agree. But if we're talking about the entire fucking world, that issue can wait, sir. Because I bet you if there was just 900 abortions across the whole world, nobody would be running on the issue of abortion, Piers. I think we have to put these things in perspective. For real. We ain't even got 1,000 people out of 8 billion that this is an issue for. I'm sorry, Piers. You're going to find one person in your whole continent with this issue a year. Of course, that number, but the point is, it's not an issue that needs urgency. It's really not.
Rights, when at the same time they're advocating a direct attack on women's rights.
Yeah, I want to respond to the point that Candace made prior. Again, it wasn't me pivoting or shifting my position. I wasn't suggesting that Donald Trump or LeBron James were cosplaying. I'm saying that neither is cosplaying. I think my point is not that LeBron James is a legitimate poor person. My point is he's a rich person who is able to speak to the experience of a poor person, someone who was dirt poor at one point, and now he's pivoted. That's what I'm saying he's doing. And I'm saying no matter what class position you're in, if your politics are right, then you can speak to the issue. That's all I'm saying. I was never suggesting the thing that you were representing me to have been saying. It sounds like it was just a miscommunication. I actually don't disagree with you on the big point. As far as the race piece of this, or the misogyny piece of this, pointing to a left-wing newspaper and saying, well, look, it's not misogyny. A left-wing newspaper was questioning this. Left-wing newspapers are misogynist. Democrats are misogynist.
True.
You know, misogyny isn't a right-wing problem. It's a universal problem. So just because it's in a left-wing newspaper doesn't nullify
But it's a
the
valid
claim.
critique. I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't like to cut you off, but I just want to say, do you not think it's a valid critique if somebody is given a job, not because they're qualified, but quite literally because they are sleeping with someone who gave them the position,
that's not
which,
fair.
like I said, caused a firestorm at that time?
That's not
do you
fair.
not think it's a valid critique to say, well, they weren't even
And
qualified
Pierce won't
to be the
defend
DA,
her because
and
he's
now
a
all of a sudden,
fucking Donald Trump dick sucker. He won't defend Kamala on any grounds because this shit is wrong.
they're trying to tell you that they're
This shit
qualified
is
to
just
be
wrong.
the president of the United States. So do you think that's
It's because she's a woman. Nobody will ever say a man made it to where he is because he slept with a woman in power. Nobody will ever in a million years say that shit ever, and that's misogynistic. Like period. Like it's just fucking ridiculous. A woman sleeps with somebody that's in a field that she's interested in, which makes the most fucking sense because if you're around somebody that's in the same work, a lot of people date people within their work field or their everyday experiences. If you're in that area with those people, you're more likely to date them. That's not like this. Why? Oh my God, y'all act like she fucking woke up one day and said, "Hey, I'm gonna sleep with a politician and then maybe I'll be vice president of the fucking country." Like, give me a break.
a valid critique, setting aside misogyny?
If that were the point I was making, I would agree with you. But that wasn't the point. That was an example you gave that wasn't responsive to the point I was making. I'm saying right now, as she's running for president, there are people saying she's unqualified for the office. I think it's much more of a reasonable question to raise. 20 years ago when she's running for DA, I didn't take issue with that, right? Although I don't know enough about the Willie Brown situation to speak to it. If what you're saying is true, then yeah, you should question that. But I'm saying right now in 2024, after serving as vice president, after serving in the U.S. Senate, after serving as a district attorney, after having all of these jobs, state attorney general, I don't think qualification is the right thing to raise. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, I don't think she's good at this. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say,
well, what about the point?
Different issue.
Let's move to the
transport.
Yes.
What's the transport? To the transport. I don't think it's a contradiction for Democrats to do that unless they accept the terms of your argument. Let me be clear.
Exactly.
If you think that trans women are not women, then yes, it would be a violation of women's rights to say that trans women should be boxing. I happen to believe.
I'm sorry.
Piers, you want him to answer your question? Let him fucking talk. You ready to argue with him, and he hasn't laid out his entire position yet. And I'm probably finna disagree with Mark.
No. I insist on finishing this point.
Exactly.
I will not be cut off and misrepresented. But let me make the point.
Okay.
I happen to believe that biological males should not participate in women's sports.
Okay.
I am fine taking that position. Yeah, that's my point. Sometimes if you hear me out, you realize we're not even debating. But there are many Democrats who don't take that position. There are many people on the left who believe that, and let me be clear, I think trans women are women. I just think sports are divided in a very particular way. In 8th grade.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that trans women are a form of women. Like, that's fine because the way we use the word, I know people probably hear this and roll their eyes at me. The way we treat the word women and identify women, there's trans women that you would just, I would say they're trans, but they're a woman in the way we use that word. But that's for another day, another video. But yes, the point is, he's saying that I believe they're women, but I don't agree that they should be in sports. It doesn't contradict one another because sports aren't based off of gender. Sports are based off of sex. That's how sports are categorized, especially on the fucking competitive level. Sports are categorized about sex. Sports is not categorized on your gender whatsoever. Because I think anybody would look at Brittany Griner and nobody would be upset if you thought she was a man, but she's still a female. That's why sports are categorized the way they are.
We make a decision that we need to divide sports up by gender or by sex, right?
Thank you. Oh God, I was finna be mad if he said gender. Yes, it's by sex, not gender.
In 8th grade, we make a decision that we need to divide sports up by gender or by sex, right? Because we believe that there's something fundamentally different about biological boys and
Thank you.
biological girls to say we
Yes.
shouldn't be running on the same track team. We shouldn't be boxing each other.
Yes.
I'm okay with that argument.
Yes.
I agree with that argument. I suspect, I don't want to speak for Candace, but I suspect she agrees with me on this, and I suspect you agree with me on that.
Yes.
So we're not in disagreement on that. But just because I have that position doesn't mean that everyone who disagrees with me is being a hypocrite, because they don't begin from the same premise that I begin from.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Ooh,
So I
yeah,
don't think
Mark
it's
cooking.
contradictory.
Well,
I think
hang on. Okay, but all right, hang on.
He's fucking cooking, because I don't agree with it too. If there's people on the left that say that trans women should just be able to be competing against biological women carte blanche, I don't agree with that whatsoever. But like he said, if they're starting places that they're the same, that's not hypocritical. It's not hypocritical.
What other premise could there possibly be? The bottom line is these are people who were born biological males who are competing against biological females.
I don't know if Pierce does this just to fucking have his show engaging, or because he's that fucking stupid. Because it's like, I guess you kind of, in this position, sometimes people do shut Piers up and he just won't respond, or he'll say something fucking that's a non sequitur. So who knows?
And there's a reason why we don't do that in sport. It's why the Olympics have always separated the sexes, because the truth is, if they didn't, women wouldn't win any medals.
He just said it. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, Pierce, you're not even responding to what he said. You're just saying how you feel again, and Mark agrees with you, and you're just trying to start a debate that don't exist. He agrees with you, so why are you saying that?
Look, I mean, listen, I know that
I think what you should do is bring someone in who has the position that you're trying to debate. It's like you're trying to force a debate with me on something that we agree on. So bring on somebody who has the opposite position, and they can speak to that. But what I'm saying is
right.
that
I just wanted to add here, like, just to say where we do actually differentiate, like, trans women are absolutely not women, and that's why we're playing the crazy game right now, is because we have people that are trying to
I think trans women are trans women. And then I think that's just a form of a woman. I haven't decided how I felt about trans women are women thing. I don't know how I feel about that term in and of itself. But I think that there's a point where there's some trans women that if they approach somebody the way that we as individuals assess women, we wouldn't even hesitate and be like, oh, that's a woman. Like, there's instances of it. I don't know if it's the norm or not, but there's instances of a trans woman approaching you and you will be like, that's a woman. So that's why I'm kind of wrestling with it, because there'll always be a trans woman, but then it's kind of like, well, if they can pass, which I'm sorry, that's just something that some people have to deal with. Like, some people pass easier than others, whatever the circumstance may be. But it's just some trans women will never have an issue with anybody identifying them as a woman. They won't have an issue with that until maybe you get into bed with them or something. So they probably got to disclose that whenever they get involved with people. So I don't know how I feel about that in particular. I don't know how I feel about trans women are women. I don't know how I feel about it.
parse reality and say, well, I believe trans women are women, but they're also biological men. Like, the fact that we are calling them trans women is because they are not women. I am a woman, and no matter how you feel on the inside, you are never going to be.
Because if we don't see your genitals or have your chromosomal makeup, Candace, we don't know that. We don't know that. Because say you had a stronger jawline, people might say you trans, Candace, just because they're looking at you.
A woman, and that disagreement, that fundamental disagreement, is the reason why we are playing the crazy game. I won't play it.
And nor is it that relevant. It's not, and then that's another thing. They make it a big deal, and like, it's not that fucking serious. It's not, because it really just comes down to who they're fucking dating, and that's what you probably care the most about. I have friends that are trans. I don't give a fuck about anything of their surgeries, their sexual life, because I'm not trying to date them. That none of that shit matters to me.
I will not address a man that is in a dress as a woman. It's insulting to
It's literally irrelevant. It's literally irrelevant.
me. It's insulting to the things that actual women live through in their lives. And you can play Halloween, you can put lipstick on a pig. It is
And nobody said that trans women live their lives having the same experiences as biological women.
still a pig, and it is just Halloween. So I just feel very strongly about that, and I wanted to make that clear.
These people
And
they're just masked. It's just transphobia. It's just, that's all it is transphobia, bro. It's just, I don't like them, so I'm just gonna demonize them at every turn because this shit is stupid. Like, he agrees that trans women shouldn't be in female sports because the distinction is about males and females. It's not about your identity as a gender. So all of this is just to get off your trans hate.
This is a large part, though, Piers, going back to your point of why, because my sisters were on the left, and this is the first election that they voted for Trump. They're from Connecticut, dyed in the wool Democrats, I guess you could say, and they moved away. And the trans issue was the number one reason that they did.
Yeah.
What they said was happening in the school system made them fearful.
How's that the number one reason Kamala didn't run on any of that shit?
They have sons.
That's how I know
They
people
thought
don't
it was
care about
completely
policy.
crazy and bizarre that they're insisting upon trying to make toddlers. My sisters have toddlers believe that they can be anything that they want and that they're non-binary. They truly believe the left has gone crazy, and they say
I just don't believe these people in this. I have 2 kids that have been in school. Excuse me. I have kids that are Gen Alpha. Excuse me. So I haven't had any issues with gender and sex in these kids' school. And I'm not. It's anecdotal. I don't know what they're doing around the world. But I find it hard to believe that they're like in school, like, hey, you can be whatever sex or gender you want. You know, like, I don't think that's happening, bro. I think all they're doing is telling people to accept people for who they are. I feel like that's the extent of it. They're just telling these kids to accept people for who they are. It's not to say, like, you can do whatever you want and be whoever you want to be and blah, blah, blah. And even if they did, that isn't a reason that anybody would process like, let me try being the other sex. Like, nobody works like that. When we grew up and being gay was I'm a millennial. So being gay was damn near like a fucking, you was written a scarlet letter and it was like, you didn't want to be gay and open about it. Like we made fun of gay people. Like you could not be openly gay. But the people that have grown up today and have came out, I knew they was gay when we was kids and nobody did anything to them in most instances. And that's just how they were. And nobody did anything to them to make it that way. Some of these guys have grew up with all brothers who's some niggas and from the hood and fucking had to fucking live on their own and all this type of shit. And some niggas just turn out to be gay. It is what it is. There's hood niggas that are gay and nobody did anything to them or made them that way. They didn't have a gay experience. They weren't molested because people tend to think that all gay people got molested or something or sexually abused. Some people are gay. That's just what it is. Some people are gay.
I didn't leave the left. The left left me. And that is an accurate statement to make because they cannot just
and some
see
people are
things
trans.
that are just so plainly obvious. They are trying to criminalize the idea that a woman is a woman and you can't just become a woman because you feel a certain way on the inside. And the right, like
you can't become a female because you feel a certain way on the inside, but you can't present yourself as a woman. There's no valid argument you can make against that. I'm not saying that once you feel like you're a female because you can't fix that, but you can be born a male and feel like a woman. Or you probably feel like a female, but you can't change that. But you can feel like how you want to present yourself as a woman and you can get away with it. Candace, you have to separate sex and gender because you don't even believe they're the same. Anybody that thinks that sex and gender are the same thing, they don't really believe it. Ask them to come to me. I'll talk to you. Anybody that want to argue with me, I don't care what you say. You don't actually believe that sex and gender are the same thing at all.
Doing right now. I will just say it as it is, right? You are not a woman. I am sorry that you are suffering from a mental disorder. If you were suffering from any other mental disorder.
And it is a mental thing. Gender dysphoria is a thing. And that's where trans people come in after that. But you conflating sex and gender and they're not the same.
I would treat you the same way. I want you to get better. But because you are suffering from a mental disorder does not mean that I have to pretend that I have a mental disorder and that I see things differently. I don't.
I mean, Mark, I'll let you respond directly to what Candace says there. Well, let me just point out one thing. Let me just point out one thing. There was a New York Times report today that said that one of the most effective Trump ads during the presidential race towards the end was the one where he had Kamala Harris saying, she'll call you they, them, I'll call you, you, or whatever it was. And that turned out to be, to the Trump campaign team's surprise, one of their most effective ads of the whole race, apparently, which suggests it is a much bigger issue than some Democrats clearly want people to think.
I mean, it could be true, but it could be true. I'm not going to say I don't think it's true, but it's just the fact that Trump lost so much support and the Democrats just didn't keep to the same barometer or gain, or they didn't gain any on the right. Trump lost 3 million voters. The Democrats lost fucking more like 15 million. I think just a lot of people just were not enthused to get to vote, and it wasn't as easy. And I think that's really what it came down to. We can't sit here and act like Trump like smashed his last run. Let's put that in perspective too. Trump lost I guess depending on what you want to consider, 3 million is a lot or not a lot. He didn't gain much. He didn't gain anything. We lost a lot. The left lost a lot of voters, but I think it was the access and again, the frustration. People are frustrated now, and Trump still didn't gain much. Trump is not this like overly popular guy. If we're being real, did he not lose voters every run? Every election, did he not lose? Maybe, I don't know, 2016 versus 2024. I got to look at it again. I'm not sure. I don't know if he had more now than 20. He probably had more now than before because he gained them, and then they was like, oh, I remember Trump and I want to go back to that. And then there's the 3 million people that's probably like, nah, this ain't because of Trump. But
I saw Joe Scarborough
Kamala,
on this yesterday, very vocal, saying this trans issue has gone completely wrong. The Democrats should not be supporting this kind of thinking. And Bill Clinton, apparently, according to the New York Times, he directly tried to get the Democrats and Kamala Harris and her team to understand that they had to come out against this, but they didn't. And that is, I think, a big problem, particularly, as I say, the reason I think it's a big problem is if at the same time you're trying to say, I'm the person protecting women's rights. One of the reasons why so many women didn't vote for her may be because they just didn't buy it. Sorry, if you did, you wouldn't allow this.
I'll respond to all those points. I think they're interesting points. I think, one, I'm not sure anyone, and again, I need to see the data to speak to this, just as we all should. I don't think anyone is voting for the president based on this issue. It could be an issue that tips the scale, but I think most people aren't voting for president based on this issue. I just don't think it's the priority issue of most people.
Mothers are.
I do.
Peers keep bringing it.
Again, they may be. I'd like to see the evidence of that. I can't say definitively one way or the other, but it's never happened before in any election, so this would be the first time. So if it's true, just show me the evidence, and I'm happy to learn from it. But to the bigger point here, I think that we can say, when I say women, I'm including cisgender women, I'm including transgender women. When I say women, I'm including all of their experiences. When I want to protect women, I don't just want to protect cisgender women, I want to protect transgender women. When it comes to sports for me, it's about a competitive advantage. If someone were a cisgender woman, which we've seen before, that had high levels of testosterone, but were not trans, just had high levels of testosterone and gave a competitive advantage, I would say they also should not compete. It's not their transness, it's about keeping a level playing field. And I believe, as a general rule, and there might be some exceptions, but as a general rule, a person who is a trans woman in particular, we see this actually on the converse, when trans male boxers attempt to compete with cis male boxers. The trans women lose. They lose badly, and honestly, I worry about their safety and their health. Yes, so it's not a safe playing field. But that doesn't mean that to acknowledge the womanness and the humanity and the fundamental dignity and legitimacy of trans identities is to play make-believe or to play fairy tales. I think we can acknowledge their humanity. And most Democrats, I think, who I speak to, and again, I'm not a Democrat, but I'm on the left, most Democrats, I think, share the position I have. I don't think most people, at least in my neighborhood, my community, I'll talk about Black people in particular, think that trans folks should be playing in sports, right? In ways that create competitive disadvantage.
Well, let's agree on that central point.
Let him finish. Both of y'all jump in.
Okay, hang on. We've got about 3 minutes left. Candace, I just want to end on one thing.
About this. Yeah, I just feel strongly
listen,
about
I think you made your point strongly. I just want to ask you, with just a few minutes left.
Thank you, Pierce.
What do you want Trump to do? He's got an incredible mandate here. What would you like to see him do, Candace, to really transform America in a positive way?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that he promised he would do. Secure the borders. I want him to get the illegals out of this country. It fundamentally is hurting the workers, particularly the blue-collar workers. Is hurting.
No, they're not. The employment's at a low. It's not because it's fucking illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants help this country be what it is. So it's like, whether you like it or not, illegal immigrants help this country move the way it does. I don't care how you feel. Again, y'all feel, but it's not attached to reality. Stop. You don't want him to get rid of all of them either. If you did, you better hope you want to get rid of he can get rid of all of the criminals. Please, get rid of all the criminals. Get rid of the American-born criminals. Send their ass somewhere. I don't give a fuck. Put their ass on Antarctica. Let them figure out shit there. Send American criminals away too. Fuck.
Black Americans. It's why you saw men moving away from this. And obviously Latinos are upset about it as well, to try to conflate being a legal Latino citizen with being an illegal, I think is something that has been upsetting to people. I very much want him to go after the deep state. I know I saw appears that you tweeted.
Y'all made up this deep state shit, and now y'all want it. Y'all think because people don't act perfectly in situations, they're part of some cabal. And that's not true. I think there are people that act inappropriately. Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, all these fucking people that went to Roger Stone, all these people went to fucking jail because they did stupid shit underhandedly. So Trump got indicted and fucking convicted of fucking 34 felonies. But y'all don't care about people doing wrong. Y'all don't care about people doing things that are immoral. Y'all just want what you want. That's my issue. I will never defend somebody if Kamala Harris was doing some underhanded shit, I would look at her crazy and I would not want her to be president. I don't give a fuck if you agree with me ideologically. If you do something so wrong that hurts people, whether it be financially, emotionally, physically, whatever, governmentally, economically, don't do stuff to hurt people and you know it's gonna hurt people. Y'all don't care if it helps you. Y'all don't really care. Y'all don't care about a deep state. Y'all don't really care because if y'all was so George Soros, Twitter, the leftists are propagandizing media and brainwashing you to think that you need to and trans women are really females and all this stupid shit that left people on never really ever actually said. All that goofy shit, and you got the richest person on earth promoting the president, and y'all like, yay, get the fuck out of here.
Have this sentiment like we should take the high road now, we should walk away from this, we shouldn't go after Hunter Biden. I think it's the exact opposite. He took the high road in his first time that he was in office, and look what they did to him afterwards. We need to root out this corruption and truly go after the Department of Justice, because if they will do this to a sitting president, how safe
Department of Justice did nothing, and Trump is going to get away with all the crimes he committed.
Does an American feel? I want him to instantly, on first day in the office, to take care of Edward Snowden and Julian Assange, to issue them both pardons. And I want to make sure that the people that are around him do a very good job at deregulating this economic environment. I look forward to seeing what RFK Jr. does to the CDC. He has
the fact that she's agreeing. Candace also is pretty much anti-vax, and she wants RFK to be in the fucking CDC and shit, and FDA and all that shit. Like, this is fucking ridiculous. These people are crazy. These people are crazy. And the cynical part of me is like, I want y'all to realize, I want y'all to feel the wrath of what you've brought upon the American people, but at the same time, it's gonna affect me too. And it's like, what the fuck? I honestly want Trump to excel as a president simply because if it can benefit me, which is I voted my interest, but if he's gonna be president, I hope that what he thinks he's gonna do will help me. But if it doesn't, I'm going to rage hell. I am going to rage hell. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that agree that have voted for Kamala are going to raise hell if what he said he was going to do actually manifests itself. We're living in unprecedented times.
It's been on to them for a very long time, absolutely collapse Big Pharma, what they did throughout COVID, the bureaucratic state that was a warning to what will come if we allow the state to continue to grow. And he's got to fundamentally shrink government, secure the borders, and root out the corruption of the Department of Justice and the deep state.
And Mark, we've got about a minute. What would you want him to do?
A bunch of stuff that he's not going to do. I'd love to see him hike the minimum wage to a living wage. I'd love to see him cut off funding to Israel. I'd love him to restore full funding to the Palestinian people through UNRWA, and in fact, increase that funding. I'd love to see him sign a reparations agenda. I'd love to see universal health care for all. I'd love to see student debt forgiveness. I'd love to see him, jump back into all the international climate agreements that he's pulled out from in the past and commit to staying in them. And I'd love to see him have a humane border policy.
Right, because he didn't vote for Trump. So for you to say what you want to see him do is going to be a bunch of stuff that he never said he was going to do. So I'm glad Mark just answered the question. Like, there's nothing he's going to do, but this is what I want, which is why I didn't vote for him. It was kind of a stupid question to ask him.
We may disagree on what humane looks like, but we absolutely need one. So I'd love to see him do all that stuff. And if he does all that stuff, I will fight for a constitutional change to give him a third term.
You know what? If he does all that stuff, it's highly likely that the reason is he's transitioned into being Kamala Harris. And that ain't going to happen. Not on Trump's watch. Thank you both very much. Great debate. Appreciate it.
That was good. That was a good joke. That was a good joke. Yeah, man. I'm glad Candace and Mark were able to basically carry that whole 30-minute segment. That was decent. Pierce seems to, he gets wrapped up in trying to make his show interesting that he'll go the lengths of ignoring what the fuck the person just said to try to create a debate. And Mark don't be taking a debate. Mark like, well, you should bring somebody on that agrees with agrees with what you're fighting against, but that's not me. Trans women shouldn't be in female sports because sports are designated for sexes, not genders. But again, this is where we are, y'all. Donald Trump, another 4 years. My honest opinion, I hope he does help the economy because that's what more Americans that voted wanted. They think he's gonna do it. I hope he does it because I have to deal with it. I didn't vote for him. I didn't want him to be our president. I don't think he's gonna do that, but I hope he does because that's the only chance I have to survive this fucking country. You know what I'm saying? So as also a working class, middle class American, I want to do well. And I'm not saying that means I have to get rich because of it. I don't even think everybody be like, I gotta get rich. People just don't want to have to feel like if I miss one day of work because my child is having a fucking hard day that I can't get her to school, or because I get sick, or because I get hurt, or because my fucking cousin died. And yes, that's not an immediate family, but you know, you don't get bereavement for cousins. So you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's a lot of shit. So yeah, man, I hope Trump has a good term. I do think that America has made a big mistake, and if Donald Trump's presidency, if he finishes it, because he is a quite old age and it's clear that he has a mental decline going on. I'm not just saying that to attack him. I'm saying that because it's true. Trump is mentally declining. So if he finishes his term, and he does what he says and it hurts the economy, I just want to see an apology from all of the people that voted for him in the right. Not literally all, but the pundits, the news anchors, the personalities. I just need an open apology, full stop. Because if Trump, this election, this can only go one of two ways. Trump is going to do what he said he's going to do, which is unequivocally going to harm the economy in this country as a whole, or he's not going to do a damn thing, and people have voted for him because of a false hope that they was hoping he could do what he said he would do, even though it would hurt you, and it didn't manifest. I think those are the only two options at this point, because like Piers just said, honestly, if he does what the left wants, he's gonna be trans Kamala. So maybe there is hope. But nonetheless, y'all, I appreciate it if you made it to this point in the video. Make sure you leave a like, comment, sub. If not one, then all three. And I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. Peace.